Without a doubt, the accounts payable function will look very different in just a few short years. AI, artificial intelligence, is going to make an impact. Is that good or is it bad? And more importantly, what does it mean for our viewers, the professionals who work and manage or have responsibility for the accounts payable function? There will definitely be some challenges. Make sure you stick around until the end when my guest, Nathanael L'Heureux, Chief Solution Officers for Oversight, a company revolutionizing the concept of AI in action, is going to share some unexpected opportunities for our community, some of which I'm willing to bet you never really considered. So, Nathaniel, let's address the elephant in the room before we get to the AI related change, challenges, and opportunities for our accounting, finance, accounts payable, and audit community. Is AI going to take everyone's job who works and manages or has responsibility for the accounts payable or payment function? If yes, why? And if no, why not? And you know what I'm
Yeah,
hoping you're going to say.
that is the question that everybody's asking, and the answer is definitely not. Not going to take everybody's job. In fact, it's really a tool, right? It's a tool, much like Excel was a tool that allows you to do things much faster and quicker than the old days of paper ledgers. It's a tool that will enable the finance professionals to do their job more quickly, more accurately, but with more depth. And it really will, for those who embrace it, it will really become something that will move them ahead. And yeah, new things can be a little scary, right? Let's face it. It's like, oh no, something new to learn. The good thing
Right.
is that, right? But it's actually it's quite easy. It's way easier than Excel. So
Oh, good. All right. And most of our audience is very familiar with Excel, so
yeah,
that should be comforting. I'll have to remember that it's easier than Excel.
that's right.
Okay. So when I think about AI and AP, I can see two very different places where AI can make a real difference and hopefully a positive one. That would be on the auditing side and also on the invoice processing side. Is that what you see?
Yeah, absolutely. Those are two key areas that we're looking and seeing in the market and with our customers. I would say that yeah, automating and helping really some of those jobs with audit going, enabling the financial team to do more extensive audits, right? With
Hmm.
help.
Right.
And yeah, so those are the two areas definitely that I would agree with.
Okay. So let's talk about change and specifically change generated by AI, Nathaniel. Now, you've been with Oversight for 17 years, so I'm sure
Yes,
you've seen a bit of change in that time
absolutely.
period. Probably some of it or most of it, I don't know, caused by AI. Before we roll up our sleeves and dive into the AI and AP, can you share how AI has changed your work, if it has at all?
It has. You know what? Just both in the tools that certainly that oversight provides, but even beyond that, I was challenged actually by my younger son. He was writing an email to a professor, and so he was he typed up an email and was like, this is not very good. So he
Right.
said, let me paste it into Chat
Get
GPT,
GPT.
yeah, and just say, please make this more professional. And it produced a really great
Hmm.
email. So he just pasted it there. He cut and pasted it back in, made a couple little edits, but it
Right.
really he was like, wow, this is amazing. And
Right.
so when I saw him do that, I was like, wow, that's pretty
Yeah.
interesting. And so I had a presentation to make, and actually, so I said,
Uh-oh.
okay, Chat GPT, give me an outline. And I just typed in a subject and I was like, do, 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 do. It's like, hey, that's pretty good. I needed to change a little bit
Yes.
around,
Yes.
right? It doesn't do everything for you, but just for things that I've done, even outside or in parallel to the finance function, it's like a, it's like a quick helper, right?
Right. Right.
To give some starting points in those areas.
But it makes mistakes.
It does. It
It
yes.
it makes some frightening mistakes.
Well, and there's yeah, so and there's different types of AI, which is
Mhm.
important to understand. So the type that's making the mistakes is kind of the hottest new thing, which is generational AI, right? Where you're asking it to write a letter or
Hmm.
something like that. Yes, that makes mistakes. Now there's other types of of AI, especially when you're in the audit world, that you don't want that to be happening, right? There's areas where you can, hey, let it make a few
Yeah.
mistakes and then we'll clean it up. And then there's other areas like, no, that's not good at all.
Yeah.
So
I've done some stuff like your son has done,
yeah,
especially at the end of the day with an email. I'm tired.
yeah,
Yeah, I write it and it's, oh, that's boring.
yeah,
But sometimes it jazzes it up a little too
that's
much,
right.
and I'm like, oh, I
Well,
can't send
that's
that.
true. Yeah,
But it gets you started. I mean,
it does.
and I think you said the right word. It's an aid.
That's right.
Okay.
It is.
So, given oversight's intense focus on risk and fraud, I have to believe that AI has probably made a big impact in that area. I think
Yes.
our audience would be quite interested to hear how oversight is using AI in helping customers with their GRC. And just for the few people who don't know, that's governance, risk, and compliance efforts. Are you willing to share any of that?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, and this is where there again there's different types of AI. So there's the generational AI which helps it creates text or drawings, but then there's other types that are like machine learning
Hmm.
and more what you might call computational or
Hmm.
mathematically focused.
Hmm.
And that's where the audit piece comes in really strong. And so, for instance, uh, something simple in AP, right? Identifying duplicates, right?
Right.
So, in the
A big
past,
thing, a
people,
big issue.
oh, right. And people, traditional tools, right, export into Excel or into other things,
Hmm.
line them up by amounts and dates and da da da, right? A lot of work to do that. You find some, not all, but here's the great thing. AI, especially when you have trained models, like Oversight has these
Hmm.
trained models,
Hmm.
and it will use lots of pieces of data,
Hmm.
and it will detect abnormalities. So, for instance, not only will it detect a duplicate, right, very precisely and much better than just lining up amounts. Part of the problem when you just line up amounts and dates and things like that, you get a lot of false positives, right? So
Yes,
most
yes.
of those are fine. AI will shrink down and just get your attention to where the problems are.
Okay.
So that's for like a duplicate. Now, what about uh, a wrong vendor being paid, which will potentially lead to a duplicate later? But what happens is the AI can learn what's normal
Oh.
for a vendor, right? And so when it sees that something that's abnormal, right? Like the invoice number is slightly wrong,
Mhm.
or the amount is abnormal, or the timing. It's like, wait, there's been two now. Taking into effect numbers, lots and lots of different categories, it can very precisely identify abnormalities, which not only will I identify like a wrong vendor paid
Mhm.
accident or a keying error,
Mhm.
the wrong unit of measure or something. It was funny. We've had some situations. I remember this one
Mm.
early on. One company, um, they were using Oversight, and they came back to us and said, "Well, we found this one. Somebody ordered paper, right? Something kind of standard, but somebody instead of when they were choosing the unit of measure, instead of
Oh.
boxes of paper,
Oh, no.
they accidentally chose box cars."
Right.
So instead of it being, under $100, it was $30,000 in paper. They were like, and it went through, right? It was a
Right.
humongous PO, and it was going through, and then it flagged it and said, "Hey, whoa, this is weird."
Right.
Or currency problems,
Mhm.
it's very common. Like an invoice
Mhm.
gets entered in, let's say in Chinese yuan,
Mhm.
but then the currency is left as US dollars. Well, that's
Right.
a big difference.
Right.
So it can catch those abnormalities and fraud.
Mm.
Yeah. So
It's funny that you mentioned that because I use online banking, as I'm sure everybody does. And now the bank will come back and say to me, "Are you sure you want to pay that amount? It's larger than you usually pay."
yeah, yeah,
Yeah. So,
yeah. So Exactly. And what we find is, a big problem that a lot of our customers are facing is the third party fraud, business email compromise,
Oh
right?
my God, yes.
Isn't it? It's crazy the number of emails that you get trying to change a bank account or trying to get something. Well, again, the artificial intelligence looks and says, "Hey, this is an abnormal change, right?
Right,
So, hey, there's something going on. There was a change to the banking information, and now the invoice number is different, or the amount is different, or the currency is different, and all of these things together. It's like, you probably want to take a look at this." And
right.
so it will precisely identify before that money goes out the door. So,
So it's funny that you just reminded me because we've recently moved and I had to put change of address in, which is, always a treat because you never remember everything.
yeah,
And I went to I put it in on one of my brokerage accounts and it took it and it said, okay, but you will not be able to take money out of this account for, I don't remember what, it didn't matter. I
right,
wasn't
right.
going to take it out, but they're worried.
Yes. Oh, absolutely. Because yeah, the problems. One of our customers said they get 5 or 6 a day,
Oh
fraudulent emails. People sending stuff in, and it's not just to the finance department, right?
no.
It goes to everybody in the organization. All these things, and
Anybody that they can try and trick.
oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
And they said about one, they catch most of it, right? Because the
right.
the systems that they have in the email plus training,
Yeah,
and so they catch most of it. But they've said about one a month actually gets changed. I was like, wow, that is significant.
it
But
is because it
again,
could be a
having
lot of money,
oh, absolutely, yeah, yeah.
It's like, oh, but I only made one mistake. Yeah, but that one mistake cost $2 million.
Oh, that's absolutely right. And a lot of really big companies have lost really hundreds
Yes.
of millions of dollars.
Y-
The headlines are just shocking. It's like, wow.
they are, and
Yeah.
the people who are perpetrating that type of fraud, they're really smart. I'm sorry, I hate to give them
No.
credit. They are, and they'll send it on like the one story that I'm most familiar with because I know the people involved. They sent it on a Friday afternoon. It was before a holiday weekend. The
Oh,
staff was overworked. They had in place the process. You have to call and verify, but the person
yep.
was busy, and she was like,
Yeah.
"The last 25 times I've called, it's been legitimate."
Right. Oh, absolutely.
And
Yeah.
she made the change, and
Yeah.
it wasn't. Oh well. All right. So we're all learning
That's right.
along with the AI. So are
That's
we.
right. Yeah, and
All
that's
right.
where yeah,
Yeah.
the AI does catch those things for you.
Yeah.
It's another layer of
Another layer
protection.
of protection that unfortunately or fortunately, I don't know, we all need.
Absolutely.
So this sounds great, Nathaniel, but I'm willing to bet there will be a few bumps in the road. There's always a few bumps in the road when we're talking about money. Can you address some of the challenges for those folks who work and have responsibility for the accounts payable function? And if they know what the challenges are, if you can identify them for us, that'd be really great because they can prepare then.
Yeah, so I guess there's a couple different types of challenges, right? That
Mhm.
one is, obviously, um there's the challenges of problems with the existing ones. We talked a little bit
Mhm.
about that, right? There's a lot of things that aren't being caught,
Mhm.
and everybody's facing financial pressure, right?
Right.
Doing more with less. Teams are
Right.
shrinking, and you got to do more. So it's like, how do we keep up with this, right? So, but then anytime you're looking at okay, making a change, right? There's the change management is always challenging, right?
Hmm.
There's going to be people who on the team, it's like learning something new, that will it's um, it's not always easy. They're used to doing things in a particular
Right.
way. I myself get into ruts. It's funny. Like so many times, even just driving somewhere. Like I drive to work so often and then on days when I'm not going to work, I accidentally just
Drive
hit
to
an
work.
autopilot and start driving to work. It's like, no, I need to go the other way. Right. So I think but when you're adopting something new, that change management is always a piece to that's important to look at. And I guess the secondary corollary to that is, if you really want to make something effective, you have to stop doing some things that you were doing, right? and adopt some new processes. So the good news is, as I said, AI tools really, my experience is they're easy. Like the Chat GPT
Mhm.
example, right? You just put it into the browser and it spits something back. It's like, wow, couldn't be easier.
Mhm.
But even on the financial side, a lot of times we've had people come back to us who started using oversight, and they're like, "Man, this is so it's like fun for them
Right.
now because they used to be spending so much time
Mm.
just identifying things,
Mhm.
identifying where the risk is, where's the duplicates or the problems. From an audit perspective, it can be tedious and it takes a long time to find the proverbial needle in the haystack, right? And they're
Mhm.
like, wow, this is just showing me all of this stuff.
Right.
And now I can actually take my time solving the problems instead of
Mhm.
looking for them. So,
Right.
but getting over the initial hurdle, the
Mhm.
resistance to change, but once seeing it is uh, it usually makes believers out of most people. It's
Right.
like, okay, let's do this.
So I'm just going to throw this out at you from left field. I think data analytics is the next big opportunity, and AI it'll help a little bit with that, but it'll also free up some time. I think. I don't know.
Absolutely.
I don't know.
Yeah, so again, freeing up time so that, again, the teams that are getting smaller, they can not only do their job, but what we've found is at a number of our clients, they've like become heroes in the company because of wow. In fact, one of our clients just recently, the whole team was nominated a
Oh,
got a major reward from all the way up through the executives, the CEO. They're handing them these major awards because of all the significant improvements that they were making, and so that was pretty cool.
yeah, that
Um,
is.
yep, but data analytics, yeah, certainly a key area, and it's a broad topic, but right now a lot of teams have done uh, either have done or are in the process of thinking about AP automation, right?
Oh yeah, big.
Getting the invoices, that whole processing scanned and simplified,
Yep.
and all of those kinds of things, which is great. They help immensely.
Hmm.
But what those tools don't often have is a deep analytic component, right? And so
Right.
that they can understand the data. And again, on the audit side, spotting the risk.
Right.
And so these are two areas where, again, the artificial intelligence really um, it brings it solves those problems for you by one of the things I think is kind of interesting is a lot of people, and even I've done this, there's great charts and graphs like in a BI tool, but then you always ask the question, but so what, right? What do I do with
Right.
this? What
Right. Are
is
you
it?
going to use them? Are you actually going to use them?
Right, what is it telling me that I need to do to know to help my job
Right.
be better, right?
Right.
So, well, surprisingly, again, this is an area where AI can now take
Mm.
a chart and show you, hey, here's the things that are interesting on here, because we sometimes get lost in
And the numbers. Oh
the
my
sea
God, the
of
numbers. Yeah.
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 And so it's like it shows you, okay, now here's a few things to focus on and some steps you can take.
Right.
So again, another area
Yeah.
just to improve the effectiveness.
I have a good friend who's a data analytics nut. There's a better way. I'm sure he wouldn't
Yeah.
describe himself like that. And he's always telling me I have 120 reports you could use in accounts payable. I'm like, nobody is going to look at 120 reports.
Oh, I know. Yeah. Uh,
But they're all
Absolutely.
good, and I'm sure they are. All
Yeah.
right, let me not razz on him too
We
much.
yes, we get drowned in not only data but
Hmm.
reports, the
Hmm.
proliferation of reports.
Yep.
But having an analytics system that will not only do the analytics for you, but then show you, hey, take a look at this, right?
Right.
This is something that you need to focus on
Yeah.
in the sea of reports that you
Right.
have.
In the 120 reports, here are the two
that
pieces of
that's right.
information you
What
need.
do you need to look at?
But when I laugh at him, but the truth of the matter is sometimes it is very hard to find those two pieces of information.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's
So I know, Nathaniel, you have some funny AI stories that you've agreed to share with the audience. And I know we're going to talk about the incredible opportunities that AI presents for our folks. But before we get to that, I would be remiss if I didn't take a moment to thank our sponsor, Oversight. Oversight is AI in action. Oversight AI sees everything, ensuring process integrity by identifying mistakes, waste, and fraudulent activity in accounts payable, travel and entertainment, and purchase card. Go to oversight.com to find out how, and I'll put a link to it in the description for anyone who wants to learn a little bit more about oversight. All
yeah.
right, Nathaniel. I think I've told you the story about I was trying to get AI to help me arrange furniture recently. And the AI tool kept telling me to put my 6 foot credenza in a 5.5 foot space. And when I would go back and say to it, but a 5.5 foot space will not hold a 6 foot credenza, it would say, my apologies, you are correct. And then it would spit out its recommendations again with still telling me to put my 6 foot credenza in the 5.5 foot space. So, how about you? What's the funniest thing that's ever happened to you using AI?
Well, so I guess there's two categories of things that I've found extremely funny, and some of them are kind of on the crazy side. So for instance, one of the things that our system monitors, as you mentioned, not just accounts payable, but travel and expense, and
Oh boy.
oh my goodness, the stuff that you see people trying to submit and do. It's like, what on earth were you thinking?
Right, right, right,
You
right.
know, from things like actually somebody's submitting their whole family a cruise for their whole
Oh
family.
my God. And they didn't
Yeah,
even try and disguise it?
no, I was like, well, that's it. You know what? That that brings up a funny other side. So on the compliance side of things, we help, especially with accounts payable, in keeping track of like sanctions, that
Yeah,
are
yes.
very big right now,
Mhm.
especially like the Russia
Yes,
Ukraine war
yeah.
has
The Foreign Corrupt
exploded this.
Practices Act, yeah.
Yep, yep, exploded those sanctioned countries, and not just the countries, but the
Mhm.
businesses, and. So at any rate, the it's interesting. But so one of the things that we also do is look for risk and keywords, like, and one of our keywords that we have is looking for the word fraud, and what's fraud and bribe.
Bribe, right.
And it's surprising that in so many companies you run through their data and the word bribe, it's
It's
like,
there.
yeah, and it's like, and I'm trying to wrap my head around this. Somebody's being honest about being dishonest, it's like, but hey, at least there's something there to be said.
Right, right.
But
If I talk about making it easy to find.
yes. Yep. Yeah, and I think some other, just the funny stuff of some things that I've experienced. Talked about my son and his email things. Well, certainly some of the
Mm,
some of the
right.
help that AI has occasionally done on some of those have been quite humorous. When I was writing some papers, it has gotten some things a little bit a little bit funny, we'll say. Talking about bringing up situations and telling me about what happened in my life. It's like, what? That
Right.
didn't happen.
Right,
So
right,
uh,
right.
so
I like to say, and this is no offense meant for used car salesmen, but sometimes when I try and get it to help me with the marketing brochure stuff that I'm writing, it sounds like I'm a used car salesman. And I'm like,
yes.
no, this is the accounting and finance
Well,
market. You can't write like that. You can't say.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, exactly. And yeah, I think
Mhm.
that's because there's so much used car marketing out there.
Yeah.
So that's how it learned. Yeah,
Yeah. Alrighty. So I do believe just as PCs and Excel created a whole slew of new jobs and opportunities for the business community, the same will be true for AI. What do you
absolutely.
see as the opportunities for folks who work and manage or have responsibility for the accounts payable and or payment function?
Yeah, that's a great question. I saw an interesting article recently. I'm trying to remember if it was, I think it was a McKinsey article,
Okay.
and they were saying, and it could have been on Forbes too, but at any rate, wherever it was, they were talking about the increasing need with AI for managers.
Mhm.
you
No,
know,
yeah.
uh, because because these tools are helpful, but you need what they don't have is they don't have like higher level thought, right? They don't understand
Right.
the business process and the
Mhm.
needs, and so there needs to be more both the ability to have a critical review of things that are going to be produced by AI, kind
Mhm.
of double checking.
Mhm.
And not only that, but what the AI still isn't doing is having the more strategic thought about, hey, where should we be going?
Mhm.
How can we improve this process? Or and of course, then the personal touch, right?
Right.
At the end of the day, we're still people.
Mhm.
We need people
Mhm.
to be interacting with us. And as nice as AI is for helping identify stuff, you know it never will replace
No.
the human interaction, right? The kind word that
Mhm.
somebody says, or just the personal touch, the personal greeting, and because we are people, those things are still
Yeah.
critical. Otherwise, people are going to leave, right?
Mhm.
They People leave jobs because of lack of bad managers is
Right.
very common, and so increasing that ability to connect with people,
Mhm.
to have more of a strategic view, and also be able to identify problems with
Mhm.
what AI has done, right?
Yeah.
Those are areas that are going to be growing in need. And
Mhm.
so for people who can use AI, it will it's like it will supercharge what you're able to do.
Mhm.
But in doing that, you'll need to be able to understand where the mistakes can lie.
Mhm.
And the second part is it's interesting, and I don't know if you how much you use either Siri or Alexa or something.
With
So
varying degrees of aggravation.
well, that's the problem, right? It's interesting because you have to learn to speak to them
Yes.
not in the way that you normally speak, but in the
Mhm.
way that they understand,
Yes.
right? And it's like you have to use particular words in particular order, otherwise it says I don't understand, right?
Right. Or it gives
And
you
the
wrong
same
information back. And
that's right.
at the end of the day, that's your fault, not theirs.
Yeah. Yes.
Not that I own up to it when I'm ready to throw the little thing out the window.
Yeah, and so there also is now and will continue to be, there's like this specialization of,
Mhm.
okay, when you ask a question to an AI thing, it will spit something back, but usually the first round isn't very good,
No, it's
right?
not.
So
Yeah.
what you have to do, right, like it will, like the example of the used car sales
Right.
kind of pitch that you said, being able to learn to say, well, could you change that so that it's in this other tone, right?
I always now say the target audience is.
Yes. Yeah. So exactly. So you've now learned
Right.
a particular set of words to be able to use the AI tool better, because it still doesn't do everything.
Right.
So being familiar with, and I encourage people, even if um, they're a little bit technology scared.
Yes.
My wife hates technology. Well, she says that, but she's
I
on her phone texting like crazy.
I say it occasionally when it's not doing what I want it to do.
Yes, yes, it can be frustrating, but just play with it. It's not going to break. And
Right.
and you'll start learning exactly
Mhm.
those things like you talked about. Oh, okay, when I'm trying to get something back, I need to tell it
Right.
what the target audience is,
Right.
or that this is for a finance
Right.
executive, right? So
Right.
you're setting a tone, but if you haven't used it, you don't know that. And
No.
so just play around with it
Yeah.
and learn.
Otherwise, it comes back and gives you a little message for your boss. You say, "I wanted this to be friendly," and it starts off with, "Hey, dude."
Yeah,
And okay, that
yeah,
that's not really how you want to
yeah.
talk to him.
Yes, not for a teenager here. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. All
Absolutely.
righty. Predicting the demise of accounts payable has been a favorite pastime for prognosticators for some time, and not just because of AI. We
Yeah.
recently took a look at whether AP would be obsolete in 3 years, and you can watch that right now using the link that will appear momentarily on your YouTube screen and is in the description below. As always, we appreciate your likes, your shares, your comments, and subscribe.